Pour yourself a fresh cup of awakening with Coffee with Wally, the podcast that brews enlightening discussions with a grind of the past and future. Join host and seasoned broadcast journalist Wally Wood of the Wood News Group and co-host Andy Valudes, the marine marketer and master strategist from Marketing Dynamics, as they explore the past, present, and future. Dive into a world where technology and globalization intersect with prophecy. Each week, Coffee with Wally links ancient and recent history to tomorrow, making sense of today's rapid changes through the lens of Revelation 13. Don't miss any episode. Visit coffeewithwally.com and subscribe for your weekly espresso of insight. Coffee with Wally, a fresh cup of awakening, awaits you. Coffee with Wally, where understanding our times becomes clear over caffeine.
Recording in progress. We're back. My name is Andy Valdez. I'm your co-host for Coffee with Wally. You're watching Coffee with Wally Web Extra here with your host, Wally Wood. Hey, Wally, how you doing today?
Good morning, Andy. I'm doing well, and we're looking forward to this very special interview today.
Awesome. Yes, we've been looking forward to interviewing our
guest.
Our special guest. We're not going to name him yet because we want to keep that a surprise. But Wally, go ahead and kick it off.
Yeah. Today's guest is another one of our Wikipedia giants, and we're starting to rake them in here now with being on Wikipedia. But today's guest has made, he's very well known in Nashville. He's a Nashville singer and song producer, writer. He's written numerous songs for a number of different artists. He's made appearances with or performances with Roy Acuff, Minnie Pearl, Jimmy Dean, Johnny Cash, Marty Robbins, Kristofferson, Reba McEntire, Dolly Parton, Wayne Newton, Larry Gatlin, Mickey Gilley. He and his wife, Kim, have been on the Mike Huckabee Show. They've been on Daystar Network and Trinity Network. On the Eddie Arnold Show, he appeared with Chris Kristofferson as well. He's been on the Mike Douglas Show, the Virginia Graham Television Show, Mama Cass Elliott Television Show on the ABC Network, Phil Everly Show, and he co-hosted with Steve Allen Television Variety Show. Now, you're probably asking if this is Donald Trump, but no, it's our good friend Bill Nash from Nashville, Tennessee. He and his wife, Kim, now live here in Houston, and we're going to go into detail on that. Welcome aboard, Bill. Good to have you.
Yeah, great to be here, you guys. Thank you so much. I was thinking about all those names you were calling out, honestly.
Yes.
Wow, I'm going, you know what? Who is this guy?
That takes you all the way back before you were born, brother.
Man, Andy, I think Andy keeps every scrap of everything that I've ever told him. And he somehow puts it all in there. And I had actually forgotten about the Mike Douglas Show and the Mama Cass Elliott Show.
Yeah, isn't that something?
Yeah, and there's always something funny about each one. When you do, because here I'm jumping into this. Mike Douglas chose to do his show from Philadelphia.
Okay,
and I really don't know why, because the major acts would come through there, but not like they would if he were in New York. I mean, there's a lot of them always in New York. There's a few of them now. And I was in fact, I ended up co-hosting a show with the governor's wife there in Philly for a season. And I was actually on Capitol Records at the time, and I only lasted one season because it is so cold in Philly in the winter time, and all I had was my South Texas jacket for warmth.
Right?
I had no gloves, and it was like, come on! That producer of the show became a great friend of mine, Stuart Crown. And he said, "Man, Bill, you are crazy. You go get you some gloves and this and that." And the snow was piled up beside my car. I'd never dealt with any of that.
Wow.
So I'd be late to work on snow days.
Yeah, us Houston boys, we just don't know how to handle the
Oh, that's right.
Great.
That's right. When we see snow, we take pictures of it.
That's true.
they get it every year, no matter what,
And then we go out and play in it.
Exactly. We build snowmen. We build snowmen out in the cold.
Listen, when you go as far back as Roy Acuff and Minnie Pearl, that's going back a long way, brother. Really is.
Yeah. Roy was the father of country music. That's what they call him. And I was recently in Nashville. We've got a new project coming out. I think that's why Andy had kind of gotten up with me on our Old Hank project. And the unfortunate part, I don't know if you guys remember 2, 3, 4, 5 years maybe back when Nashville flooded, and it flooded the Opry House. It flooded, and they had to put. Well, this is the one out at Opryland where the Opryland Hotel is, but the water was up over the stage, and the dressing rooms all got loaded and soaked, and so Mr. Roy's dressing room was very large because everybody would congregate in there. And the last time I was in there, Charlie Pride was in there, little Jimmy Dickens, and me. And we're in there and just listening to Mr. Roy talk. And the guy was up of his, like almost 90 years old, 90 something years old. And yet when he spoke, everybody just shut up. You didn't even have to tell them. We just wanted to hear the stories. And now I'm telling stories like that. I mean, I have my Roy Acuff story, and it has to do with that song, Will the Circle Be Unbroken?
Yes.
And it was written by A.P. Carter, the Carter family. That's the dad, and that's June Carter's daddy.
Yes.
That married Johnny Cash, which changed his life immensely for Christianity and Jesus Christ. And I was glad for that. But Mr. Roy, we were on the Louisiana Hayride, and the Nash family trio, my mother, my brother, and I, and we were the opening act for Minnie Pearl and for Roy Acuff. And he was the big star in those days. He packed that place out. It was his name that was the draw. But we went out and opened the show with our gospel music. And when I was, before my voice changed, I had just one of those big little boy voices, but man, looking for a city. It was kind of like that. The crowd it was my gift from God. And it was to also spread the gospel. We were gospel singers. And so we did our part. And then Minnie Pearl came out. She's always funny. And we got to talk with her backstage. And we stayed in the same hotel with them. And her husband was a pilot and flew them down there from Nashville and all of that. And so at the end of the show, Mr. Acuff was going to end it. And then he says, and I'll never forget this because I'm standing in the wings on one side of the theater and my brother Dave standing on the other side. My mama was talking backstage with Minnie Pearl somewhere. The two women were talking about makeup and jewelry and all this kind of stuff. And Mr. Roy says, "Where's that Nash family? We get them, Minnie, get out here, Minnie, come on." So we all run to the stage, and he says to the band, "Let's do a Circle Be Unbroken." And that's where that started, where people would finish the whole show and then come out and do a finale with everybody doing Will the Circle Be Unbroken. And then it got recorded by the Traveling Wilburys. Do y'all remember those guys?
No, I don't.
Man, it was Roy Orbison. It was the Beatles. I can't think of all the Beatles names now, but because I think it was just Paul McCartney, but he represented them. Maybe John Lennon was there with them too, but some other big rock stars, and they sang that very song, Will the Circle Be Unbroken? And they were standing in a circle, and they each one picked a solo. You can still get it on YouTube. You can still see that.
Really?
But Roy Acuff is the one that started it, and we were part of that start. I mean, I don't know if it means anything to anybody else, but it's history. And
bless your heart.
Anytime you work with guys like Roy Acuff, you're going to get noticed somewhere, somehow,
You're going to experience some history, that's for sure. Well, I've got to ask you a question that will hopefully settle a historical curiosity. Did they name Nashville after you?
You've been waiting to throw that out there.
Yes, I have.
Yeah. You know what's funny is first time I heard that, we were living in Nashville at the time, and we met Johnny Cash's sister, Joanne.
Yes.
She is his youngest, still living. She's still alive. She's 92 or 3, but the last living sibling of Johnny Cash. But she and her husband had a ministry to the tourists, and they did it in the Ernest Tubb Theater right in that complex, the Opryland complex. And so, man, we struck up such a great friendship, and we sang for them many, many times, and even wrote their theme song about Cowboy Church. They're the ones that I remember as starting the Cowboy Church movement across the whole nation.
Yes. And
everybody's welcome here at Cowboy Church, and they won't meet a stranger here at Cowboy Church. And they still use it. Of course, they haven't paid me any royalties yet because they're talking the ministry. But, it just kind of came to me. And I'm looking on my wall over here. I got my wall of shame in my office. And we put up Joanne Cash Yates was her name. Her husband's name was Harry Yates, a great minister. And the guy was Dr. Harry Yates. He was a doctor of what do you call it when you're in the ministry and you have a ministerial background degree?
A reverend or a doctor, yeah.
Yeah. But he was such an incredible minister. And we traveled with him some, and it was a wonderful thing. And when Johnny would come to church there in Nashville at that Opryland complex, they would put me at his table. This place they had a table up front for the visiting singers, musicians, and this and that.
Right.
Because I had opened for Johnny, my wife and I, not my wife and I, this is my mother and my brother and I, opened 2 years in a row for the Grand Ole Opry, Columbia Records Parade of Stars Grand Ole Opry. And I got to stand there with Johnny and June and in the wings while all the other Marty Robbins, all those names you mentioned, they came out after the Nash family. We opened, and here they all came down the line. And Johnny and June, I was only about 15, and I was only about 5'7", 135 pounds. Kind of wish for some of those days now. But there I was right there beside them. And Johnny's producer was our producer. And that's how we came from. Our first record album on Columbia was our not our engineer, but our producer was Ernie Altschuler. Not that will mean anything, but he was Perry Como's producer.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And we had Perry Como's couple of his band members picking for us, some of his studio guys. My mother was a great pianist. So I'm jumping all over this whole dang thing for you guys, but
yes, you are.
It kind of gets all the music thing gets it discombobulated in a way. But we've been we started in New York because Gene Rayburn discovered us, and ended up in Nashville because they felt like the country division was the best for us. And it's just been a ride like that all my life, you guys. And
you mentioned Gene Rayburn. Explain him a little bit. Describe him a little bit to our audience who may not remember who he is or even know who he was. He was in television himself.
Yeah, you know what he was, and you know this. He was a big radio star in New York City.
Okay.
And you know how many million people are in New York City? And he was like the Greg Gutfield of his day with no curse words.
Yes.
And but he was such an off the wall character and so intriguing to work with that when NBC came along and started doing these morning shows, you know, the first show Gene Rayburn had before the match game. The match game is what took him into the sunset.
Yes.
And it is still played now in reruns.
Yes.
So Gene is still alive, but we went to that show because we were in New York to sing for the Grandmothers Convention. We got tickets to these shows, Merv Griffin show, and then on down the line. That's when the guy that invented the wheel, Merv Griffin, he had his show, and it was just down from those guys.
And Wheel of Fortune.
Yeah. All these studios where you see Saturday Night Live being filmed right now, that's the same studios that we were in when I was just about 13, 14 years old.
Wow.
And they had all that equipment on wheels. And they had these huge doors between the studio. They just opened those up. They would roll the piano. Well, you know how big a grand piano is.
Yes.
They roll it through those doors and roll the cameras, all those huge, big old cameras they used to use back in that would be 1959, y'all. So in the 50s, now the cameras are this big.
Yes.
You know? And
well, folks, in case you didn't know, in just the last few moments, Bill has taken you through the first 5 chapters of his book. His book is entitled Saint, Sinner, Singer, An Unexpected, Redirected, Resurrected Life. It came out in 2021. And there he gives you his life story. And I invite everybody to read this book. A whole lot of celebrities have done so. When he and Kim were on Mike Huckabee's show about 2 years ago, Mike was talking about that book. And I think that the highlight of the book is what everybody focuses in on, the day that you discovered a particular janitor who was called into your office, called into the producer's office, as I recall. And you're sitting there wondering, why in the world is the producer calling the janitor in with a guitar? Now, I want you to tell the story and save the punchline, the name at the very end. But tell us the story of how that happened real quick.
Okay, so I get to Nashville. We have a production meeting. Anytime you're going to make a record, you're going to meet with your producer and you're going to pick songs.
Yeah.
And so that's what we were doing that Tuesday morning, 10 a.m. There I am, Jerry Kennedy, star maker, they called him, and they still do. He's retired now, but his sons are still big in the music thing. And so I get there and I meet him face to face because he sent me a contract in the mail, sight unseen, except he'd heard my voice, so he wanted it. So I'm there, and he just walks into his office and shuts the door, and he comes around. I sit down, and he sits down and puts his feet up on the desk and picks up the phone and dials the number and says, "Is the janitor there?" Well, that's pretty perplexing, and he had told me that he was going to have these big time songwriters write me all these songs and we're going to have a bunch of hits. I'm wondering, why is he calling for a janitor? And then he said, a little clue, "Come on over, Bill wants to hear your song." I didn't know I wanted to hear his song. It was like, okay, a janitor with a song. That's a far cry from these big name songwriters that were writing for Jerry Lee Lewis and for the
Mickey Gilley and all.
Many acts that were on Mercury Records. I was on Mercury Records. That was a label. It's a major label. It's a big deal. So in the door walks a guy I'd never seen, didn't know, had a guitar with him, and
torn up blue jeans, as I recall.
Yeah, black jeans and a black T-shirt, just washed out and hair all ruffled and stuff. And Jerry introduces me to him, and he sings a song. Hey, let me do this, you guys. So it goes like this. I got my little guitar. Don't look so sad. I know it's over, but life goes on. This old world will keep on turning. Those extra chords are mine.
Yeah.
Let's just be glad we had some time to spend together. There's no need to watch the bridges that we're burning. And that's the line that got me. What a positive statement to make about such a negative thing in your life, a divorce, so negative. Lay your head upon my pillow, hold your warm and tender body close to mine. Hear the whisper of the raindrops blowing soft against the window, and make believe you love me one more time.
Here's the name of the song is? The name of the song
Good
is?
Time. Yes. Kristofferson. That's who was singing to me, sitting there as a janitor.
Wow.
Well, he was not famous, so no big deal in those days, except the janitors writing songs. And okay, what I didn't know, I hadn't lived in Nashville, and that was my first trip. We recorded in Nashville. The Nash family did, so it was my first time as a solo artist to be in Nashville, and I didn't know that every waiter in every cafe has a song. They're all songwriters, and it's a big hit. And if they could just get it heard, it would be huge, and they would be rich. Well, that's the general thinking, about it. But Chris, he was a helicopter pilot in the Army, man. He was a captain. His dad was a general, and
wow.
I didn't know any of that. But he stuck it out in Nashville. He lived in an abandoned building when I met him, and he attended bar from time to time for extra cash to live. And in the wintertime, I've thought about it, you guys, a million times. How I just didn't know this when we talked, because he was a Rhodes Scholar. And I know that, Wally, that would mean something to you with you and your background, because you're great at writing all this stuff down and presenting and da-da-da. And man, this guy, when you talk to him, I actually just love the guy, because you could have a great conversation with him with having nothing in common with him except writer, being a music guy. And we just talked, and we'd go to lunch. Of course, I had to buy because he was broke.
Well, of course, if anybody wishes to do this, you can find Bill and Chris doing that song on YouTube. Y'all were on the Everly Brothers show together, weren't you? Yeah.
Yeah. You know what? How that happened was I was back in Houston, because I'm from far Texas. I'm from down in the right 7 miles from the Rio Grande River. That's where I was raised. And my little town of Far, I still love all those people. They're still great. A lot of them are passed on now.
Sure.
Boy, now I've kind of I started thinking about home when we did that. What was your question to me, Wally?
Well, first of all, Far is appropriately named for being far in Texas. But I wanted to move on beyond this because we're just about to run out of time.
All right, let's do it.
You have Reba McEntire on the wall behind you.
Yeah, she's way up there in the left-hand corner.
Yeah. And you all have done a project together, and you said that there's an album that's being released soon that you've also we're doing here of late.
Yeah. Oh, the Reba Mac thing, I got to tell you this. We wrote a song called They Asked About You and presented it along with that with 5,000 other songs. She picked ours as only one of two. The other one was Does He Love You? She won a Grammy for it. She did the video with it and then apologized to us for not doing a video on our song. But she used all of her budget up on that. But that thing on my wall represents 3 million in sales at that time. And that was 1994. Now it has exceeded 11.5 million in sales, her highest selling album. God put us right on her biggest album of her career. And that song of ours was number 5 as a single on the Billboard survey. And it's been played 1,019,585 times as of now.
Wow. Bless your heart.
Unbelievable.
In your book, you also tell us how you came to Christ and how he became the center of your life. And again, we don't have any time to go into it, but I do invite people to listen to your videos, read the book. You and Kim have started Champions Kids Camp here in Houston. We have very little time left, but if you can give us a brief thumbnail on what this camp is about.
Okay. We started it because my oldest son was diagnosed with leukemia at Texas Children's, and they told us he had a 50-50 chance to live. It sent me into trauma, deep despair for 10 days till we could come back and start the protocol. But when they redid the blood work, they said his blood has gone normal. We don't know what happened. Well, that's because we held hands and prayed and asked Jesus Christ to heal his body. And I tell it just like that, because that's the only thing that happened between us leaving and going home and coming back to Texas Children's. And that's the finest hospital in the world for children. And I just appreciate all those people so very much. But we stayed in their program 3 years, and then we moved to Nashville. Nothing ever came back. Even when he was on, they made us do the whole treatment because they said those things, that leukemia will hide in his spinal column, and it'll come out with revenge. The things that are in the leukemia deal. So we did their program, and when we finished, we moved to Nashville. That's what happened But that gave us the idea. We saw so many children that were on infusion day at Texas Children's, and you could just see the darkness in the parents' eyes. The child it's trauma. Man, you guys have been touched by trauma in your lives. I know you have, because anybody in any age nowadays, trauma comes. Well, what happened was we came home to start this camp. It was a calling. That's why it was in our hearts to do so. And after we'd had the deal with Reba and this and that and all those things that the music business brings you, it's like, what am I doing? What am I doing for God, for people? And I told people about the healing to give them hope, because if your audience that we're talking to right now is praying for something to happen, don't give up praying. Keep on praying, because keep on having hope, because that's what our main mission is. And so Kids Camp started 25. This year is our 25th silver anniversary of Champions Kids Camp, helping kids get past what they'll never get over. That's our motto. I don't know how many thousand kids, Wally, called me Uncle Bill. We didn't want to be called Mr. Nash and Mrs. Nash and all. She's Aunt Kim, I'm Uncle Bill, and we love these kids. And this year, I appreciate y'all having me on, because this is a perfect time. Our camp this year is July 13th through the 18th at Carolina Creek Christian Camp, which costs a lot of money to rent, but we're going to have over 200 and some odd volunteers, children volunteers, people that have been through all kind of trauma. We're going to have a little girl there that came to us shortly after they call it in the El Paso massacre. I don't know if you ever remember that, when that all of a sudden there at that El Paso store, gunfire started up, and it was a gang from Mexico. And the grandpa was with this gal named Caitlin, little old girl. and he immediately covered her and put her on the ground and covered her, and he was killed.
Wow.
So all the noise going on and the screaming and the gunfire and all that, she's only 6 or 7 or 8 years old at this time. And her mother was looking for somebody to help her because she couldn't quit. She couldn't sleep. She couldn't no longer deal with life. And so she came the first year, and it was just a process. But she's still with us, and she's coming back to camp this year. This will be her 5th year to come to camp, and now she's one of our leaders in training.
How old is she?
She is such a love. I just wish you guys could meet her, and she would tell you better about camp than I can. That camp is just a God thing, and these children come with us. We've had 3 meals, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. We have, after every meal, we have a rally, and we have music, and we have games, and we have somebody speaking about some kind of trauma they were through and how they made it. And yes, you can make it. These kids are in the depths of it. Some of them have been abused so badly. Oh, I can't even say it on here. Some of the little girls, 8 and 9, can you believe that anybody would violate a child like that? Oh, my God. I just know God has a special place in hell for somebody that would violate these kids.
So how do people reach you, and how do they connect with the camp?
The website is, and I always say the www, and I know you don't have to, but it's champions with an S, kids with an S, camp, championskidscamp.org. That's the website. And you can go there and click on, you can pull down an application for a camper. If your child is between 8 and 12 years old, that's our age range. And then there's testimonials, videos, and all kind of stuff to show you what we've been doing. But that's where to sponsor a kid if you want. It's $500 to sponsor a child. That's how much the rent costs at that Carolina Creek Christian camp.
Okay.
But all the big churches go there. I'm not sure why we bit that off, but it's a load. But God has never let me down. And we're having a function on June the 1st. It's called Texas Best Music Fest. And it's actually at a nightclub, Mo's Place in Katy, but he's a Christian nightclub owner. And we have my great spiritual mom, Dodie Osteen, Joel's mama. The last 5 or 6 years, she's been there to say the opening prayer over it right there in the club. And if y'all read my book, you'll know how come my feet are, one of them's in the nightclubs and one of them's in the church, because that's how God positioned me. And I've spoken to more people in the clubs about Jesus than I have in the church. Because they hear me sing the gospel music, and they know I love Jesus Christ and appreciate what he's done for us and how he paid our way to heaven by dying on the cross. Amen. So there's my testimony, you guys. And everybody check out Texas Best Music Fest, Champions Kids Camp. And thank you all for having me on your program, Andy, you and Wally.
Well, Bill, we appreciate you and thank you. And Lord willing, we'll do this again sometime in the near future. Andy, take it.
All right. So you've been watching Coffee with Wally Web Extra, where understanding our times becomes clear over caffeine and apparently a song.